And thank you for that. And now to talk to us about the module of the week, we have Martin Anderson Klutz, Senior Solutions Engineer, Acquia, maintainer of a number of Drupal modules of his own. Martin, what have you found for us this week?
So, this week we're going to be talking about the previous next API, which provides a performant way to define a sequence of content. That's a module that was originally created back in 2009 by Kay Bahi, who's actually one of my early Drupal mentors. The current version is 8.x 2.0 alpha 3, which supports Drupal 8, 9, and 10. And that version was released on November 22nd of 2022, so quite recently. I would say over the years, it's probably been semi-sporadically maintained, but in terms of open issues, it currently has 38 open, but only 11 of which are actually for the current version, and only 5 of those are bugs. It's in use by over 2,300 websites, and the current maintainer looks to be JCN Ventura of 1x Internet, who is a pretty prolific contrib maintainer in his own right. So the module really works by providing a block that contains previous and next links to let a user kind of navigate within that sequence of content. It has some options in terms of how it will sequence that content. You can sort of define that. But it's also worth noting that the module that we're talking about today has a machine name of sort of prev underscore next, and there's actually a similar module that is basically the same machine name but without the underscore. Probably some significant overlap there. That one is different in the sense that it provides the same kinds of links, but really as a field that would be on the entity that you want to sequence. I think there's also a fair bit of overlap with some modules that provide, I would say, more manual control over how you would define a sequence of content. So something like, an entity queue or draggable views. But this one, I think, is more focused in terms of, what it's trying to accomplish, and sort of, it seems like it probably does a little bit more out of the box. Now, Nick, I think you had originally nominated this one. Why don't you tell us about your experience of using it?
Yeah, it's a pretty nifty little module. It has a service that allows you to request what the next one is. So it's really easy to integrate with your theme if you want to do something kind of unique with it. Um, I have a client that has a bunch of different case studies on their site, and they wanted to have a link to the next case study at the bottom of the page. And I started thinking about how I would implement that. And, of course, you could use the book module, which really seemed like overkill for that use case, because it wasn't hierarchical content. Literally, it was just like next. You could use something like entity queue, but then you have like where does that live? I could build something custom. So I decided to just do a quick search, found this module, and because it had it has the ability to restrict it also to individual content types and no bundles. So you can say like, yeah, it turns out that we also needed it on blogs, the previous and next on the blog. So, we can have the blogs indexed and the case studies indexed separately. And the nice thing about it is that it essentially is just creating a table in the database that's an index list of what the next entity is. So it's really performant. The only kind of oddity that I found is that when I pull a production database down to my local, for some reason it doesn't work until I resave the content, which I haven't had a chance to dig into, and I don't quite understand why that would happen because the node IDs are the same in production as my local. But it was a small utility module. It took me, maybe 20 minutes to figure out how to integrate the service manually in the theme file. And, once you get the node ID, you can do whatever you normally would do to pull fields that you need to build that block. Now, if you just need kind of the out of the box block, you can use that as well. But, we had slightly different designs in mind. So we use that instead. But yeah, all in all, great little module. Pretty easy to. I might be contributing something back to force Drush to give a Drush command to allow you to kind of reindex, because, like I said, it if you just have a couple pieces of content, you can go resave them. But once you get to like 10 or 15 or even 20 or thousands, it's difficult to go through and resave every single one. So I'm looking to contribute that back probably in the next few weeks.
Yeah, that sounds great. I feel like there are probably use cases as well where people don't actually want to change that updated date, which is going to be a consequence of actually
Yeah.
resaving the nodes. So being able to do that via Drush, I think would be a nice addition for sure.
Yep. And the service has a separate method for adding, updating, or deleting things from the index. And so the drush command really just needs to call the update method on all the content that's relevant. And I think the code's there. It just needs to be moved to a drush a drush command. So I don't know how it would work for thousands and thousands of modules, but um, I think they do the actual index on cron, so it shouldn't be a problem. Well, thank you, Martin, for bringing us this module of the week. And I will say that the other module I think is a little bit more restricted. The reason why I mentioned that too is because I did when I was trying to raise the issue with the production database being different. I think I created the issue on the wrong one, not realizing it was different. So if you're looking for it, one of them has an underscore, one of them doesn't. One of them has API in the name, one of them doesn't. So the one I'm using has API in the name, has the underscore. Um, but feel free to check out the other one if you have different needs as well. So thank you, Martin. And now on to our primary topic.